Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video we're going to be doing an updated Lightsworn Tearlament list. Now, compared to my normal Lightsworn Tearlament list, this one is going to be a little bit more skewed towards the Lightsworn portion of the deck, just because I felt like I mainly just wanted to access the combo of Minerva into the Visas into the Zombie Vampire in order to build like half our deck just a little bit more consistently. So as a result, the Lightsworn count is going to be a little bit higher than normal, but even so, it still runs perfectly well. It's like I said, I just wanted it for a little bit more consistency when it comes to accessing this combo line. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, but we're going to be focusing on the Lightsworn portion before we get to the tier portion, just because it is the one that has like the most changes. So as a result, we're playing 3 Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend. It's a level 4 Fiend Light Tuner monster that's able to take your bad cards like Wulf and Felis, put them on top of your deck, and then special summon itself and then mill 2 cards, including the card that you just put on top. So not only is it great at helping you just unclog your hands of the bricks that you will be drawing, but this is probably one of the main cards that allows us to access our extra deck, right? As it is a level 4 tuner monster, which means that as long as you have like another level 4 monster on the field at some point, you're going to be able to just summon this card, whether you're special summoning it or normal summoning it, and then just have access to a good chunk of your extra deck. So yeah, 3 Weiss, definitely great. And then its other effect, right, is if it's sent to the graveyard from your deck by card effect, you're able to reborn any of your Lightsworns except for this one. So yeah, it just does so much for the deck that you definitely have to just play 3 of it, especially when you're having such a heavy focus on the Lightsworn aspect. Then to go with our 3 Weisses, we're playing 3 Lightsworn Dragonling, which normally in a deck like this, when I try to mix and match the 2 engines together, you're typically going to see me playing like 2 or 1 of this card, because while it's still a phenomenal card, it just seemed a little unneeded in a lot of situations, especially when the Tearlament portion was the focus of the deck. But because the Lightsworn portion is having a bigger role than normal, I felt it was appropriate to bump this card up to 3. And like I said, it's still a phenomenal card, right? The moment you have a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand for free, so it's already an extender. And then, as if that wasn't already good enough, when this card is special summoned, you're able to foolish any of your Lightsworn cards from the deck to the grave. So this card, it literally just opens up access to your entire deck. So yeah, it's still really solid. And that's why we're going to be playing it at 3 this time. Then we're going to be playing 3 bricks, being the 2 Felis and the 1 Wulf, as if they're sent to the graveyard by card effect, they're able to bring themselves back. Now, I say if they're able to be sent to the graveyard by card effect, they can bring themselves back. But in the case of Felis, it has to specifically be by a monster. So that means it is going to be able to activate a little bit, or it's probably going to be activating a little bit less frequently than Wulf, right? Because we do play cards like Tearlaments Grief and Charge of the Light Brigade, and that's perfectly fine, just because we still just need to have access to more level 4 tuners, and that's what Felis provides us with. So even though it is technically inferior to Wulf when it comes to just providing you with bodies in a lot of certain situations, the level 4 tuner access is still just unmatched. So yeah, 2, 1, perfectly fine. And then for the final Lightsworn monster we're playing 1 Raiden Hand of the Lightsworn, just another fantastic level 4 light tuner monster that even on its own can sometimes just get the entire engine going, right? As during the main phase, you can mill 2 cards, and this time it will trigger every single card it hits. So yeah, you know, it's perfectly fine. And then we don't even really need our normal summons, so being able to use it on something like this is perfectly fine as well. Then that's it for the Lightsworn monsters. And then for the tier monsters, the ratios haven't really changed like at all. So we're still be playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira because it's a potential mill 5, the 2 Tearlaments Reinohearts to selectively choose a tier monster from our deck and send it to the graveyard. And then it also allows us to just open up like our rank 4 or synchro 8 plays a little bit more easily as well. And then lastly, the 1 of Tearlament monsters that we're only allowed to play 1 of each. So the 1 of Merlli, the 1 of Havnis, and the 1 of Scheiren. That's it for the tier monsters. And then for the final monsters that we're playing, just to help round out the deck a bit, we're going to be playing 3 Imsety Glory of Horus, as well as 1 Hapi Guidance of Horus. So that means we are going to be playing the Horus engine, just because it is like another way for us to access our rank 8 plays without having to rely on the Minerva combo. But you know, even if like it wasn't for that, these cards are still phenomenal because they're just big bodies that allow us to OTK our opponents just a little bit more easily, which is always going to be greatly appreciated. And like just the amount of pressure that they put on the opponent to answer them when they're on the field is honestly kind of crazy, because they're just so free every single turn, right? As long as you have a King Sark on the field, you're able to bring them back once every single turn. And you know, Hapi has 2400 attack, Imsety has 3000 attack, and both of their effects are honestly pretty solid. So yeah, that's that. And then for the final monster that we're playing, it's going to be one Mudora the Sword Oracle, just because you are going to be milling your entire deck basically on the first turn, right? So having something like Mudora just to be able to shuffle back cards to ensure that you don't automatically lose the game is pretty useful. And then like even if you're not doing that, having some type of control over either player's graveyard is obviously a very solid thing to do in most matchups, especially when you're going first. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now that we're on the spell and trap portion of the video, we're going to be starting off with the only card that we're playing at 3, being 3 Charge of the Light Brigade. That's right, we're not going to be playing 3 Primeval Planet Perlereino this time, just because I've always said that you could get away with just playing 1, and that's what we're doing this time, so I figured I might as well just put it into action, right, instead of just always saying it. But even so, we're playing 3 Charge of the Light Brigade because it does give us access to our Lightsworn monsters, as you just mill 3 cards for cost, and then you get to search your deck for any Lightsworn monster. So, yeah. It does suck, obviously, when you mill a Tearlament card because it doesn't trigger it, but just being able to access any Lightsworn monster at any single moment is obviously going to be greatly appreciated. And that's it for the 3 ofs. And then for the 2 ofs, we're playing 2 King Sarcophagus for our Horus engine, just to be able to constantly bring them back. And then it also gets rid of bricks in our hands, right, as you discard a card to be able to foolish any of your Horus monsters. And then we're also be playing 2 Tearlaments Scream so that we can try and mill a couple more cards whenever we happen to get access to our Tearlament portion of the deck. And then it also searches out our Tearlament traps. So yeah, pretty solid card. And then that's it for the 2 ofs. And then after that, we play a bunch of 1 ofs. So we're playing the 1 Primeval Planet Perlereino. Yeah, you may mill it sometimes, but it's honestly not the end of the world, as by the time you actually have access to this card, but like they're like a normal combo, right, the chances of you milling it are honestly pretty low, and you only really need it to resolve the one time, as opposed to pretty much making your deck reliant on this card, which is why I opted to just play 1 of it instead of 3 of it like I normally would. And plus, this card is just extremely accessible thanks to the fact that we can make Visas Amritara pretty much whenever we want. So yeah, I've never really felt like I've needed the other 2 or 3 when it comes to this specific build, but when you're focusing more on the tier portion, then you bump it up. But because this is so Lightsworn focused, 1 is perfectly fine as is. Then we're playing 1 Walls of the Imperial Tomb, which allows us to search for our Horus monsters, typically Imsety, and then it's also treated as King Sarcophagus while it's face up on the field, right? So it's basically acting as like a 3rd copy. We're playing the 1 Triple Tactics Talent because we are going to get hand trapped at some point. So being able to draw 2 cards or rip our opponent's hand apart, or if you're going second, steal an opponent's monster is greatly appreciated. We're playing the 1 Call by the Grave as our only form of defense against any Mulch army that we hit by. Obviously, it's not going to happen very frequently, but, you know, sometimes it does. Then we're also playing the 1 Tearlaments Grief, which allows us to special summon a Tearlament monster from either our deck or our graveyard, and then we send something with the same type from the field to the grave. And this one also allows us to bridge our engines a little bit more successfully, as Raiden and Reinoheart are both warrior monsters, right? So if you go for the Raiden play early enough, at some point you can go for like the Tearlaments Grief, special summon the Reinoheart, and then send the Raiden, and then just continue to combo off. So yeah, pretty solid card. Then we're playing the 1 Foolish Burial to be able to turn it into any monster that we want except Felis. And then lastly, the 1 Reinforcement of the Army, just because we do play a couple of warriors in the form of Raiden and Reinoheart. That's it for the spells though, and then for the traps, we're just playing the 2 Tearlaments Sulliek to be able to search out any tier monster when it's milled, as well as provide us with like a negate for the opponent's cards, or the opponent's monsters, and then the 1 Tearlaments Metanoise to be able to book a moon and Foolish Burial any of our Tearlament monsters. I don't play Trivy Karma. It's just not needed in a deck like this because we do play the Visas Amritara, so yeah, we don't need to break on that or try and rely on it to be able to access cards like our Primeval Planet Perlereino. So with that, that's the main deck. Should be 40 cards like always. I've been known to make a mistake, so feel free to let me know if I'm wrong down below if I am. And with that, we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now that we're on the extra deck portion of the video, we'll be starting off with the Synchro monsters first, and we're only playing 3 of them, being the 1 Minerva, the Athenian Lightsworn, as you're typically going to be using 2 Lightsworn monsters to summon it, which in turn allows you to foolish 2 more Lightsworn cards. And just from that, you're going to have this plus another level 8 Synchro monster that you're able to make. And then once you summon your second level 8 Synchro, you're going to be able to mill 4 cards because you're going to have 4 different Lightsworn monsters, or you're going to have 4 Lightsworn monsters in your graveyard, ideally. And as for what you're going to be summoning off of your second set of monsters, it's typically going to be the Visas Amritara, as this will in turn just give you access to the 1 Primeval planet that we are playing, or if you already happen to have it, You can also get like a Tearlaments Grief, a Tearlaments Scream, Sulliek, Metanoise, whatever. So yeah, this card is literally just there to help us access our tier engine whenever we need it. And then lastly, we're playing one Psy-framelord Omega just because there are certain times where you just need like another level 8 synchro monster just to summon it. And this one's probably like the best generic one to play because it takes your opponent's hand apart, recycles graveyard resources, allows you to return your banished cards, which is especially important for cards like Mudora, right? So yeah, one Omega, perfectly fine, and that's it for the synchros. And then for the exceeds, we're playing the one Time Thief Redoer just because it's a good generic rank 4 that allows us to basically access a Tearlament fusion monster whenever we want, as long as something like Reinoheart or Scheiren is used as like material, right? And then being able to take our opponent's cards as well and just turn that into advantage for ourselves is going to be greatly appreciated as well. Then for the other one, we're playing one number 60 dugares at a timeless, just because there are a lot of situations, right, where you're just milling everything and you have like 2 monsters in the field. And I've showcased this combo in the past where it may look like we have nothing because all we hit was like a Lightsworn Dragonling, right? But you just take your 2 guys, summon this one, and then bring back like a Dragonling, and then you have a full combo once again. And that's basically gonna be like the main reason why we play this as for the Reborn effect. But there are certain situations as well where you use the draw 2 discard effect because it does trigger all your tier cards, right? So it's honestly up to you, but like just the utility that this card offers you is unmatched as well. And then for the rank 8s, we're playing the one Zombie Vampire to mill 4 more cards. And then we're also playing the one number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord so that we have a monster negate in some shape or form. That's it for the exceeds. And then for the links, we're playing the one IP Masquerena, which is used to summon either the SP Little Knight or the Sprite Sprint, both of which are pretty valid. You know, if you need to banish a card, you go for the Little Knight. If you just need to send like a Merlli to fusion summon, which is probably going to come up the most when you play against a deck like Malice, where you don't really want to banish any of their cards, right? So you go for the Sprite Sprint play instead, then you make like a Kaleidoheart or a Draco Stapelia or something, and you get to pop a card because you have the planet, and you know, like I said, it's a different situation every single time, so it's not clearly black and white, and each card does have their uses. And then for the final link monster, we're playing the one Saryusha Skuldra, just because it's very easy to just straight up clog your field with cards that you don't want. So we're going to be taking advantage of Saryusha Skuldra just to be able to basically just fix our board, draw a little bit deeper into our deck, and then, you know, that's pretty much all it's there for, right? Then for the fusions, we're playing the one Mud Dragon of the Swamp, the one Garura Wings of Resonant Life, and the one Predaplant Draco Stapelia, just to be able to fusion summon with our tier monsters pretty consistently, I would say. And each one does come up at varying points. Garura is probably the least important of the bunch because the only way you can summon it is when you have multiple tier monsters in the graveyard, being the fusioners, right? When you have a Merlli, a Havnis, and a Scheiren in the grave. But it still is important just to be able to recycle your resources. And then lastly, the one Kaleidoheart, just to be able to break our opponent's board and just be a general nuisance. So with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!